So, originally I was very hesitant to make this video. I was worried I might be seen as a traitor to the art community, since I seem to be such an outlier in my opinions against Webtoon. Seriously, there are few and far people who are actually talking about how terrible Webtoon is for artists. I have been posting comics on Webtoon since 2018, with little to no success. I've been reading many popular webcomics since 2017, and have been noticing just how Webtoon caters to one audience, doesn't care about its creators, promotes terrible ideology to its readers, and manages to sweep it all under the rug and keep most, if not all, of its terrible practices out of public eye. Let's begin with the Asian financial crisis in 1997. Most people could only afford to rent rather than buy comics at the time. Over 200,000 Korean comics were being published annually, with 80% of those copies actually being sold. In 1998, the comic industry ended its censorship of Japanese manga, meaning with the flooding in the market, the Korean comic sales plummeted to 20% of the copies actually being sold. In the same period, the internet was becoming a large source of entertainment as well, being an aid in the plummeting sales of manga at the time. Many took to the internet to post their short forms of comics, and in 2004, Webtoon was founded by Yoon-ko Kim and launched by the Naver Corporation. Webtoons was officially released globally in 2014. Now that we all know what Webtoons is and how it came to be, let's talk about the audience it caters to, romantics. The romance genre is a $1.8 billion industry that is well above other genres. Webtoon pushes its romance comics more than its other series, and with good reason. Romance sells. Webtoon is a company, so of course they are going to do what's financially best for itself. Speaking from personal experience, one of my only successful webcomics was a romance based on true events, and it has been the only successful webcomic in my repertoire. In an article published by Curious, Why Do People Read More Romance Novels?, the article states that nearly 50% of romance readers blast through at least one book per week. Some readers are absorbing 4 to 5 books every couple of days. So, as a platform where your main goal is to get readers to keep coming back for more, or to spend money to get early access to future episodes, it's the only logical thing to push the romance-based comics, and get the young audience hooked and returning for more, or better yet for Webtoons, spending money to get more. It's why Webtoons continues to push comics like Lore Olympus, True Beauty, Down to Earth, and probably the most infamous, Boyfriends. Because that's what sells. That's what brings in the viewers, and most importantly, that's what brings in the money. All of the previously mentioned webcomics have an incredible reach to the public, because they are all romances that appeal to Webtoon's main viewer base, whether the premise of the comic is good or bad. So now that we're aware of the fact that Webtoons really likes money, but to be fair, what company doesn't, this plays into the favoritism that Webtoon shows its creators that bring in the views and monetary value, such as the aforementioned comics. But how does it treat its other original creators? The platform essentially allows any creator to post their comic for free under the title Canvas, with the promise that if the comic garnered enough viewers and attention, the comic then can be offered the title Original, which means the artist is now under contract to Webtoon and gets paid. Keep in mind, all Webtoon original creators are paid by Webtoon. I took to Reddit in search of how Webtoon original creators feel about their treatment, and their takes on Webtoon are less than stellar. Most make mention of the burnout, loss of creative control over their series, and complete lack of help over promotion of their series from the very site that claims to give them a hand in the first place. The burnout most creators experience is from the pressure to perform. Webtoon originals have to have a minimum of 40 to 60 panels and are paid a flat rate, so if you draw more panels, you won't make more money from it. You are also expected to keep busting out these episodes each week. Now, some original creators do have help from a team, but most do not have that advantage. Creators also lose a lot of control over their characters' personalities, so that Webtoon can have an easier time marketing to its user base. This is something a lot of creators specifically do not want to hand over. This is also why so many of the most popular comics we see and read have the same ultra-feminine main character and dark, mysterious, handsome love interest. This is also why comics like Boyfriends got so much attention from the general public. The characters are only the stereotypes they portray, making marketing for Webtoon much easier. Creators have planned out arcs and traits they want to portray in their story, and for Webtoon to take that away from them in the name of public appeal is a direct betrayal of its creators and the artistic freedom Webtoon claims to offer. Some might argue that characters need a revamp, but to that I ask, why would Webtoon offer a deal to the creators if they don't like the story to begin with? There are plenty of outliers that go against the Webtoon norms, but those stories always end prematurely, or are a direct result of Webtoon turning its back on the very artists they claim to be helping. The site will deliberately skimp on advertisements for the lower flow original creators over comics that bring in more views, essentially crippling the low flow creators from the start, and forcing ends to comics that don't bring in the views. Webtoon has slacked a lot at promoting new originals and always end up going back to the same few series that frankly don't need any more promotion. For example, Lore Olympus, Let's Play, and Unordinary. Favoritism is real, and at the end of the day, Webtoon is a business, and you can't count on them to market for each of its creators. And this also means you may not have the reach you'd expect from moving to originals like Webtoon claims. In some cases, Webtoon has been known to ghost its creators or directly ignore their contracts of its creators, though this fact is basically Webtoon's word against the creator's word. Let's get into what this means for the other half of Webtoon creators, the Canvas creators. This is where I, as well as many artists, reside, and this part of Canvas is the part I know a lot about as a creator. I have seen time and time again many talented artists passed over by Webtoon and many of its users. But why is this? It inspired me to do a deep dive into the problem a lot of us have dealt with or are dealing with firsthand. Quite frequently, the passover can be explained away by not posting enough each week, having chapters that are too short, art or a story that is unappealing, or maybe even not having enough chapters at the time. But what about if you've met all the criteria for these things and you're still not getting any type of engagement? The cold hard truth is that you might just not be a right fit for Webtoon. Something I discovered is that some stories, characters, or genres are just unmarketable in Webtoon's eyes. They would rather have an easier time marketing a romance to its readers than a mystery or a historical. Don't be fooled. They will market a few comics in the outlying genres, but never enough. If you go to the genres section of Webtoon, the subjects mystery, sports, historical, heartwarming, horror, and informative are all combined under a section labeled Other. So potentially if you're having trouble getting the attention of Webtoon, you might not be labeling your comics the right way. With that, as well as not having characters that are marketable in Webtoon's eyes, might definitely hinder an otherwise talented artist and storyteller. The message is loud and clear. Webtoon doesn't care about you. Not unless you have something to offer them. And to be fair, some artists are perfectly happy with the level of engagement on the Canvas page, but there are still plenty of other hard-working artists who someday want to catch the eyes of Webtoon. You might have heard about the controversial advertisement Webtoon proudly displayed until it started to garner much backlash. The ad reads, "Comics are literature's fun side hustle." It is really a spit in the face to all of its creators who work tirelessly to put their work on the site and bring views through their own advertisement. I myself was working 40 to 60 hours a week on top of a job and was still doing it for free while Webtoon gets the perks out of the engagement my comic brought to the site. Artists already have to prove themselves worthy of their opponents. They don't need Webtoon belittling the work that is posted on its own site. Webtoon later issued an apology for their short-sightedness. It really tells you that they care about all of the creators that personally drive engagement to the site in the first place. Let's move on to the most controversial and perhaps subjective issue with Webtoon. This site promotes inappropriate and predatory ideology onto its readers. To start with, 64% of Webtoon's readers are all under the age of 24, with kids as low as 10 years old tuning in for each week's episode of their favorite comics. Webtoon has, in the past, promoted comics with borderline predatory relationships, babysitter-child relationships, and unrelatable role models. These promotion feeds are the same for everyone, rather than having an individual feed based on one person's interests. It's completely unethical for Webtoon to be promoting these behaviors as if they're normal. It's not a matter of if readers can understand right or wrong, it's a matter of Webtoon promoting these comics with inappropriate ideologies. I would like to again reference my own comic Vinegar. In Vinegar, I used examples from my life about red flags in a relationship I was in a way to exhibit toxic traits in relationships that are lesser known. And for a majority of my comic, most if not all of my commenters were very happy with the state of the main character and her love interest, completely missing the fact that my comic was meant to exhibit negative behaviors for a love interest to show. Vinegar was not only based on true events, but was also a very grounded story, leaving nothing to be interpreted differently. So, with my comic that is meant to help readers aware of potential threats, and readers ignoring the threats just as the main character had, they might be in danger of the predatory ways Webtoon promotes and advertises inappropriate comics to its younger viewers. This ties into the popular question, do violent video games make the player violent? Numerous studies show no correlation between the two. So, in turn, why would harmful subject matter of comics be harmful to the people who read them? In an article, Media Effects on Attitudes, Values, Beliefs, it states, an abundance of research has provided evidence that entertainment media can have important effects on attitudes, values, and beliefs of an audience member. In many respects, these effects operate in much the same way as the effects noted from persuasive media, such as news media. However, the observed effects of entertainment media consumption may best be understood as unintended effects, in the same sense that these media do not necessarily intend to persuade or inform. So, if the Webtoon audience reads at the very least one or more of these harmful comics, it's not completely out of the question that they are getting the wrong message from parts of these media, unintended or not. So, is it up to the creators, who most times have a subjective idea of good or bad, to watch out for their young readers? Absolutely not. I think it's unfair for creators to take care of their audience in this instance. Everyone has a different moral compass. It shouldn't be left up to an individual who might have a skewed moral compass to protect the readers that come from the site. It's up to the platform that connects its young readers to these comics and try and protect them. As creators, we have no knowledge of our audience's age on Webtoon. The only thing we can do is put an age restriction on our comics in hopes that the correct age will read them. Unfortunately, it's up to Webtoon to take charge of the situation and protect its main audience, and unfortunately, Webtoon doesn't care. You might be wondering how I found this information, and let me tell you, it takes an absurd amount of digging, which leads me to my final point of why Webtoon isn't as great as everyone says. They sweep every wrongdoing of their own under the rug and do everything in their power to keep any ill practices out of public eye. There are many stories of artists who accepted an original offer from Webtoon, and when they couldn't bring in the numbers that Webtoon had hoped for, their work was no longer heavily promoted, or they were ghosted, or the contract Webtoon created was ignored. And it's so easy for Webtoon to do this because the amount of money it takes to sue a company in another country as a struggling artist is immeasurable. Aside from the previously mentioned inappropriate ad, Webtoon has had no negative consequences for its actions. So many artists on the Canvas page continuously hold out hope that they might get offered a contract from Webtoon so that they can make a little bit of money doing what they love, and are ignored for many reasons. But they don't want to bite a hand that might feed them, so they continue on, redrawing their first episodes of their comics, posting regularly, pouring love for art into the comic, thinking that their time might come, when in reality, it's all a money game for Webtoon. I realized something while I was researching for this. I am completely and utterly unmarketable to Webtoon. My main focus is in historical dramas with a little bit of romance. It's never my first genre. My characters aren't the typical characters that are pushed in Webtoon. And after the last 4 years, I finally figured it out. Some stories are unmarketable to Webtoon, and they will never see you as a benefit. They will never offer you a contract or help give you a platform. It's a hard pill to swallow for me, especially when I thought I had been doing everything right and devoting myself to my art like so many other artists before me have been doing. And the real question for creators is, where do we go from here? Webtoon is a site that clearly holds the quantity of readers as well as financial gain above its actual creators. Are you okay with the site as a whole? Or maybe you're a little bit miffed at the horrible condition Webtoon decides to treat its creators? The site has loudly and clearly stated with its actions that they do not care about the very people who bring readers to the site in the first place. They have no interest in helping its young viewers navigate the oversaturated app. As long as they keep seeing monetary gain from its viewers, they will keep doing what they are doing, further hurting the community it's built upon. And I want no part of it. I've been with Webtoon as a reader and as a creator since 2017, 3 years after it was released globally. I know firsthand how Webtoon has been treating its users. As an artist, I don't want to become marketable for a site that doesn't care about me unless I have something more than my art or a story to offer them. I can't in my right mind give up my characters or stories in the name of public appeal. I don't want to be part of a company, paid or not, that treats its creators in the horrible manner it's displayed. As someone who takes her work somewhat seriously, I refuse to be trampled on by a site that claims they do the exact opposite. You can often fix something that's been broken, but you can't fix something that never worked in the first place.